We're behind. They're all fired up. What we got to do? First place, our defense has got to go out there and take the ball. Then when we get the ball, we got to have 11 people that's going to do their job and try to score every time you get the football. If we do that, we'll be all right. That will be all right.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to another edition or episode of Football University. You know, the football school university where we talk anything and everything football, NFL, professional, college, whatever, but we find a way to bring it back to Alabama. And thank you to all the fans in the student section, because this is the University of Football where we bring it back to the one and only university, the University of Alabama. RTR to all the students, the Bama fans in the student section. Shouts out to you all. We got a big, exciting show. I cannot wait to get it started. Listen, we're going to be rock and rolling. Shouts out to Stephen Hicks, Lori Caddell, RTR, Charles Everidge, RTR. Welcome. Listen, tell a friend. Everybody come into the student section and let's get it started with this great show. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk everything NFL, college, Alabama football. I mean, we're going to get it started. So let's start Alabama football. Listen, I talked last week. I said the time is now. Fall camp starts on Wednesday. The players report on Wednesday, August 2nd. And it's going to be the journey for number 19. You know, I talked about the media days, Coach Saban saying that, you know, the team is starting to shape up. And, you know, if you heard us last week, we discussed how, listen, Coach Saban saying everybody want to wait till the cake is baked or when's the cake is ready. And basically Coach Saban was alluding that to the QB race. And listen, the QB race will start on Wednesday. It's going to be interesting to see how everything shapes up, how this cake is baked. But here at Football University, we want this cake to have 19 candles on it. We want that 19th national championship this year. So listen, like I said earlier, the time is now. Listen, I talked about last week coming off the 4th of July break. That's kind of like your last hoorah when it comes to training, working out, having family time. But now it's time to really focus on the season, get ready to camp. It starts, and it's going to be a lot of matchups, a lot of competitive talent coming in camp this year. I'm going to talk about the quarterback position, but I'm going to talk about special teams. But listen, let's start with the QB position. And, let's kind of start with let's go to the student section real quick before we start. Let me pump the brakes. I'm already getting excited. So let's go to the student section. Let's see. Listen. Charles Ezra said, I hate we lost Perry Thompson to Auburn. Yeah, Perry Thompson's a talented kid out of Foley, Alabama, and we know how good Foley, Alabama is producing talent from down there. I guess Kenny Stabler, but most recent talent, receiver, Foley, you automatically think of Julio Jones. So, listen, this kid plays at that school. You thought he was going to, make the transition to Alabama, but he's going to Auburn, so to each his own. But, Alabama's always turning the ship, but Alabama's kind of playing chess out. They're not playing checkers, so they're always going to bring in guys. But it's a long season. I want to say that it's a long season. Alabama has a lot of big games that a lot of recruits want to come to. No disrespect to Auburn, but everybody's going to want to be at the Alabama-Texas game, that matchup in Bryant-Denny in T-Town. Every top recruit is going to want to be there. So I won't be surprised to see some other 5-star, 4-star receivers trying to get in. That way Alabama can solidify that class. Alabama versus LSU at home, another big game. Alabama versus Tennessee at home, that third Saturday in October, getting back at the Vols. So the list goes on and on. But, it's going to be interesting to see. So, great comment right there. Let's stay in the student section. Oh, wow. Let's go. Let's go to my next topic. Starting to see more chatter about Simpson. Will be interesting to see about the QB race. And I'm glad you're going there. Ty Simpson, the talent out of the team, out of Tennessee. We're going to start with this QB race. I do think it's a two-headed race. I think we're kind of going to have kind of like a Jalen Tua situation with Milroe and Ty Simpson. But tonight, I do want to talk about why not Milroe. But since we're talking about Ty Simpson, listen, he released another video, QB Country, this past weekend, him with the shoulder pads. It's interesting to see. I'm interested to see what I'm hearing from camp right now. I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard any chatter regarding 707 or anything. So I'm interested to see how this QB race is going to pan out. But to your point, there has been a lot of chatter when it comes to Ty Simpson. You look at Greg McElroy at the SEC Media Days. He kind of had a big take saying that he believes that Ty Simpson is going to be the starter because of his accuracy, his athleticism, being able to throw the ball on the run, coach being a former quarterback and how Coach Saban values ball security and not turning the ball over. He's had a big take saying that Ty Simpson's going to take the job. But, I would like to say, I know it's been a lot of chatter about Simpson, and I've been talking about Ty Simpson here at Football University. But listen, I would say don't sleep on Jalen Milroe. And I'm going to set it up like this. If you look at Jalen Milroe, when we needed a backup quarterback for Bryce Young, it was Milroe's position. He does have the big game experience. So I'll set this segment up as why not Milroe? He does have the big game experience. He had to go on the road in the SEC coming off being cold turkey when Bryce Young went down in Arkansas. So he did throw a couple touchdowns. He did have that big run versus the Hogs up there in Little Rock. So listen, Jalen Milroe does have big game experience. He has played in the SEC on the road, gotten a victory in a hostile environment, so he has that advantage. B, he's played the game. He's played another SEC winning game when he beat Texas A&M. Now, he had, plenty of turnovers and fumbles and things like that, but he does have the experience. He does have that big game experience as opposed to Ty Simpson. So it's going to be interesting to see. So I want to talk about why not Milroe? I kind of want to talk about some of the positives because Milroe, I would not sleep on him in this quarterback race. And like I always said, if you listen to the Final Wilson, that I've said that Milroe, things he needs to work on. He's got to become more accurate. He's got to become down the field accuracy. I'm talking about deep ball passes. And, you look at those wins that Jalen Milroe had versus Arkansas, versus Texas A&M. He had some balls across the middle, but they were short, intermediate. It might not have been the most accurate, but I do think he's got to improve in his accuracy. I think he's got decent accuracy in the middle of the field, but in order for our offense to go to the next level, we've got to have that deep ball outside the hashes accuracy, throwing the ball to a Malik Benson, Isaiah Bond, Kobe Prentice, all these playmakers we have, all the tight ends, CJ Dupree, if he can deliver an accurate ball and not turn the ball over and get us in the right play, Do not sleep on Miro. Sky will be the limit because of his athleticism. We already know he's the most athletic, probably quarterback in the SEC that has experience. I keep talking about his experience. I think he's kind of 2-0. Having him come in versus Arkansas, he's kind of undefeated as a starter. So do not sleep on Jalen Milroe. So listen, let's stay in the student section. Listen, they said it reminds me of Walter Lewis type of guy who held the all-time yardage record for years. Shouts out to Walter Lewis. I don't think he gets enough flowers. The older QB that played back in the 70s, 80s, I believe. He was one of the first Black quarterbacks to really have a really successful year. But Walter Lewis, yeah, he's a really good quarterback. So listen, like I said, for Milroe, for me, and if you're watching Football University, work on your accuracy, work on your footwork in the pocket, and work on getting us in the right play, and don't turn the ball over. Because if not, you got Ty Simpson on your heels. Ty Simpson is coming. Like everybody's been saying, there's been a lot of chatter or conversations or a lot of the scales going to Ty Simpson just because of his accuracy, just because of his ball placement, just because of his QB mechanics, getting us in the right play. Yeah, he might not have the big game experience, but I'm quite sure if he gets and proves it during camp, he will be ready week 2 versus Texas going against Sarkisian there in Bryant-Denny. So we think we do play both quarterbacks week 1 versus Middle Tennessee State. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. So let's go to the student section. We got a lot of RTR in there. William, Brian, RTR, everybody, RTR, Icebox. So yeah, that's my topic regarding training camp. Listen, why not Milroe? Milroe, I did say he's technically 2-0 in the SEC. He beat Arkansas on the road. He beat Texas A&M. So he has the experiences. I know he had a lot of turnovers, and everybody's going to say, oh, his ball security, might not be the best. But I will say this. Just imagine if he didn't turn the ball over versus Texas A&M. We would have easily beat Texas A&M by like 40-something to 20. So it would have been more of a blowout if he didn't turn the ball over. So if he could turn off those turnovers, easy fumbles, manage the pocket a lot better. I think he can, with the experience that he has, and hopefully he's matured since last year. I think he's going to have to, just because of Ty Simpson's that talented of the guy, and you added Tyler Buckner, and you added Dylan Lonergan, so you have a lot of competition. So I think it's important, Milroe, to play with confidence, play with poise. I talk about the mechanics, the footwork, the accuracy, those things. But listen, Ty Simpson is coming. It's going to be interesting to see. We will find out on Wednesday. So I'm excited about camp to start. So let's get in the student section. Justin Summerlin says Matt RTR. Stephen Hicks. Shouts out to the student section. So since we're talking about the offense, I want to discuss our offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees. I think I mentioned last week how he needs to, practice patience, being the offensive coordinator at Alabama. Just imagine if he wins a couple national championships, he can write his ticket, possibly be the future head coach to take the reins from Coach Saban. If he wanted to, just imagine he has 3 national titles under his belt. But anyway, Tommy Rees did a media thing with Andy Staples, Yay, Alabama. They're affiliated with the University of Alabama, Yay, Alabama, NIL. And so, usually we do not get media. Coach Saban does not let his coordinators talk to the media. So I was very shocked and surprised to kind of see this little media sitbit with Andy Staples. But I will say this. He did mention that, the interviewer, I don't know who it was, the interviewer was, but he asked him, 4th and 1, are you going to go empty and spread the ball out, or are you going to, line up with a fullback and run the ball? And he's like, we're going to run the what ball. So I was like, that's what I love to hear from our offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees. I think he's going to be physical. He's going to be able to really utilize all our running backs, our bully offensive line, and really just utilize our talent, use the run to set up the pass. So I was glad to hear that about Tommy Rees. So I think Tommy Rees is excited coming from Notre Dame, being a young guy. I mentioned last week how he needs to push Coach Saban, and Coach Saban needs to push him. It's going to be interesting to see. So, yeah, Tommy Rees, I want to discuss that. It's going to be interesting to see him and Kevin Steele compete against each other. So, yeah, shouts out to Lori Caddell. Happy birthday to Lori Caddell. So, yeah, so we talked about Milroe. We discussed Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator. Let's stay in the student section. Stephen Hicks says, listen, September 2nd is getting closer, guys. Can't wait. Yes, September 2nd, we start with Middle Tennessee State. Listen, that game's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how the depth chart comes out. I'm just waiting to hear what are we hearing from these quarterbacks. You know, we got the scrimmages coming up. You know, every little clip from spring practice is going to be, you know, illuminated when it comes to the quarterback. Everybody's going to want to hear what they're hearing and see what they're seeing. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how this QB race is going to pan out. But it is going to – I can't wait for the football season. So, I saw a few comments. Laura Caddell, the birthday lady, said, what is your prediction for QB? You know, my QB prediction, I think it's going to be a 2-quarterback race. You know, maybe 2.5 with Tyler Buckner. I think it's going to come down to Milroe Simpson. I think Milroe probably has the edge because he's, you know, the older guy. He's got the experience, like I mentioned, you know, coming in for Bryce. He's basically 2-0 as a starter. But Ty Simpson is coming. Like, I don't think Milroe has the opportunity to mess up and not have a dynamic fall camp with all these weapons and not throw an accurate ball and get us in the wrong play and turn the ball over. You can't do that. Coach Saban's not going to waste that with this offense, with all the weapons that we have. So, listen, Ty Simpson is coming, and I think Ty, you know, looking at none of the quarterbacks look all that great in the spring, but listen, I think Ty Simpson has a lot of upside. So if I had to pick a quarterback right now, to your point, I think Milroe probably starts Middle Tennessee State, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ty Simpson starts Texas. That's just my 2 cents. But I haven't heard anything, so I'm going to go with that just to answer your question, Lori Caddell. So let's stay in the student section. Shouts out to the Bama Standard. You know, shouts out to Justin Riley, the Bama Standard. You know how we do it up there. So great comment right here. William Bryant. What about Tyler Buckner, Matt? What do you think about Tyler Buckner? Like I said, I haven't heard much on Tyler Buckner. One advantage Tyler Buckner does have, he does have experience, relationship with Tommy Rees, knowing his system, knowing what he likes to see as far as getting in the right play, progressions, different fronts, their different defenses, you know, different audibles, those type things. So he does have the experience, but I know a lot of people say, oh, Tyler Buckner, you know, played at Notre Dame. He's got the experience. But I would like to say and tell people, this is not the ACC or the Big Ten, whatever conference Notre Dame is in. This is coming to the SEC like Tyler Buckner. You're coming to a different ball game week in and week out with the speed. You will see on practice on Wednesday the different speed that we have on defenses. So I still think it's going to be a 2-quarterback race, Milroe Simpson, but you never know what Buckner might sneak in, or it might be Lonergan. So it's going to be crazy. I'm excited. So shouts out to the William Brown with that great comment. Let's see. Great comment from Justin Riley, my guy. We're not seeing on the week of Final Whistle. Shout out to Final Whistle Tuesdays. We make it happen. So let's go. A lot of birthdays. Shouts out to the student section. Lauren Caddell getting all the birthday love. So great comment. Shouts out to the Bama Standard. What's your mindset and point of the year being a former player? Like I mentioned earlier, you know, this time of the year going into camp, it's like, listen, you know the grind is coming. Like, you're going to be hot. You've been preparing all year. This is the time to go out there and shine and compete. And listen, I've been there as a player where coming out of spring, you might not have been as high on the depth chart, but that's where you have camp to really go out there and prove yourself and compete daily in and day out and go and just be dominant players. So by the time we got done with fall camp, I was one of the top players in the rotation, just because of how I competed in camp. This is where we're going to play the best guys. I mean, I mentioned the Kevin Steele's defense. We got talent everywhere. There's a lot of competitive talent matchups from the defensive linemen. You look at what Freddie Roach has. You look at what Holzer has on the edge with Keeley and Quay Russo and Jans Pierre and all these guys. There's a lot of talent and a lot of competition going out there. So I'm excited. And so speaking of I'm gonna answer this question two-part. With fall camp, I know everybody gets caught up in the offense and the defense, but to those young players out there, special teams. Listen, this is the best time for you to, if you're a young freshman or somebody trying to get a role, work on being dominant in the special teams, whether it's kickoff coverage, punt return, punt block, whatever. Work on being dominant in special teams, because that's a way to get on the field and either get more playing time on defense. And I automatically think about this is my pick, is going to be probably one of our top special teams players. I draw this comparison to this guy. He reminds me of Vinny Sinceri, how Vinny Sinceri was just so dominant on special teams, blocking punts, hard hitting, whatever it came. And he translated into him getting more reps on the defensive end, i.e., I'm rolling with Jake Pope. I think the talent out of Beaufort, Georgia, Jake Pope is going to be probably one of our top special team guys that's going to get in that rotation. Everybody's talking about Caleb Downs and Malachi Moore, but Jake Pope made plays. Listen, he had a big hit versus Burton in the spring game. I think he's talented enough coming out of Beaufort High School where he's going to be probably one of our top special teams player and be another Vinny Sinceri 2.0, where they might throw him in on a dime package, on the defensive end. So it's going to be very interesting to see. So do not sleep on Jake Pope here at Football University. I think Jake Pope's going to be the special teams player of the year, one of them. So let's go to the student section. Y'all are rocking and rolling. Let's see. Yes, there will be more competition in practice than in the games. Listen, speaking of Coach Saban practice, I'll never forget, coming from making the transition from Coach Shula to Coach Saban. When Coach Saban got there, I understood when practice was about. It's basically like boot camp. Like, you look forward to the games because the games are so much easier because Coach Saban's practices are so intense, so competitive. It's more of a mental challenge, having to be a student, having to play with high IQ, having to execute and keep it energetic, keep it fun, keep it competitive. Like, it's a lot of competition on the field. So I'm excited to see how this competition plays out, how this cake is baked. I just wanted to have 19 candles on it for 19 championship because I won't bama. We haven't won a national championship in 2 years, so it's been way too long. So let's go to the student section. Right here, Rhett has a great comment. He says, Matt, what new recruit is going to make the biggest impact this year? Golly, it's a couple guys. Obviously, first comes to mind, sweet Justice Haynes, the talented running back out of Georgia, Beaufort High School. I mentioned Jake Pope. I mentioned Beaufort High School. Beaufort's put out a lot of talent for the University of Alabama. Going back to Dylan Lee, the talented linebacker out of Beaufort. But listen, Justice Hayes, I think he's going to have a big impact. He's one of them on the defensive end. Caleb Downs. I think Caleb Downs is going to be that guy in that safety. You hear Kool-Aid, you hear Dallas Turner, you hear those guys talking about those type of freshman impact players. Listen, you look at a Quay, I mentioned Dallas Turner, but he was talking about a Keon Keeley, a Jans Pierre, and a Quay Russo. So listen, this recruiting class, this 23 class they are coming to set the tone, let these older guys know if you're wasting time, we're coming to get your spot. But yeah, I think those, just to name a few, I mentioned Downs, Justice Haynes. I think on the offensive line, I mean, you look at, don't sleep on Richie Young at that running back, but you look at Ola Saladin, McVeigh, all those guys, they're going to be competing for have a big impact on this team. And like I said, the young guys are outplaying the tough older guys, play the young guys. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. So Joseph Saban says, speaking of recruits, Saban's got a lot of solid recruits. We'll pick some more up in the fall. Yeah, I think everybody's returned. Just regard, shout out talking about the Perry Uno Thompson flip. I mean, it is what it is. But listen, this is how it is. This is how recruiting is. But I believe it's a long season. I said it early in this show. Everybody's going to want to come to T-Town for the big game, the big Texas game, the big LSU game, the big Tennessee game, the big who else we got at the crib? I know we played Texas A&M on the road. I think we got Ole Miss here. Yeah, I think we got Ole Miss here. It's going to be very interesting. So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these recruiting is a long term. It's just a long process. These kids nowadays, they might be favorite color is blue this week. Another favorite color is green. So this is how it is recruits. So it is what it is. But like I said, I think Alabama's going to find a way. I think they're great at receivers. I'm looking at a Ryan Williams and a French, the receiver out of Tampa. So I think Coach Saban's going to look at some other receivers and probably maybe snap 2 receivers because we're going to need them next year. So it's going to be interesting to see. Let's stay in the student section. Y'all are rocking and rolling. Mr. Jones says, I hope Saban utilizes running back a lot, especially because of the NFL not valuing should be mad and maybe listen. This brings me up to my next point. Listen, I think y'all are in my notes. So I don't know what y'all got going on, but the big news in NFL, we mentioned it last week. Josh Jacobs not getting played. Saquon Barkley having contract negotiations. He was able to sign a 1-year deal with the Giants. The running backs having these conference calls with Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, Chubb, all these top running backs. And the NFL is really treating the running backs really wrong right now or devaluing their market. And I want to say that I mentioned Tommy Rees. I mentioned this Alabama offense. Alabama needs to value the running backs. We can turn the value market for the running backs and show how important running backs are to offensive schemes by running the ball. Utilizing the Justice Hayes, a Jace McClellan, who's on the Maxwell watch list, a Roydell Williams, a Jam Miller, a Richard Young. Like, we can utilize those guys and show the value of, a running back, how valuable running backs are, how valuable running the ball is. And I think Alabama can do that with our running backs. To your point, Jones, for Mr. Jones looking at my notes. But, yeah, I think what Tommy Rees can do with this offense, utilize our top running backs, and we can show how important running backs are and really show how important not only running backs are to the football, but how important Bama running backs are in football. You look, I mentioned Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry. Alabama is RBU. Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris. The list goes on and on, but we can show these up and coming guys that what we got coming. You look at a Jahmyr Gibbs, who I'm gonna put a side note. Go and look at the Detroit Lions in the Den series on YouTube, episode 3, how they talk about how they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. His talent is really good, but Jahmyr Gibbs, Alabama is still putting out running backs at an elite level. And so I think it's important that Alabama continues to do this under the leadership of Tommy Rees and starting to do it by this year by using the running backs that we have to show how important the running back market is, and i.e. how important the Alabama running back market is to the NFL, because listen, we are RBU and we continue to breed those running backs. So shouts out to the student section with this great notes. Yeah, talk about increase the value of running back, showing the importance of running back, feeding Roydell, Jam, Jace, Richard Young, Justice Haynes. So yeah, I talked about Jake Popes and Sirius. So I know I kind of talked about the NFL, but let's go to the student section before I go there. Let's see. Let's see what's going on. Jeff Stapleton says Proctor's. I heard a lot about him talking to the series this year. Caden Proctor, that's another name. When y'all were talking about those impactful freshmen, I think Caden Proctor is going to be competing for that left tackle position. So it's going to be interesting to see how these young guys, this 23 class, is listen. These guys are coming. This class reminds me of the 2017 class with Tua, Leatherwood, Jedrick Willis, Najee, Devontae, Waddle, all those guys. I think Judy, I think this 23 class is similar to that 2017 class. Talent alone. A lot of Proctor talk. A lot of people saying Pritchard, Proctor, but a lot of people are rolling with Proctor. It's going to be interesting to see how this camp competition led by Coach Wolf as offensive line coach. I think Tommy Reese's leadership, we're going to get back to being physical up front and running the ball, utilizing those running backs, and like I just said, showing the importance of RBs, especially Alabama RBs. So, yeah, great point right here. I think we've constantly talked about this here, that we need to have rotate players. We need to rotate, be multiple, and get more guys playing. I think the more guys you can play to get more game experience, especially look at deep positions, whether it's running back or linebackers or secondary, defensive linemen. I think the more game experience, the more competition you have, the better cream rises to the top and it pushes everybody. So I think that's how the team is going to shape up for Alabama. I think Coach Saban's got two coordinators that are going to do that, demand that, his style on the offensive end, defensive end. I think you're going to see it from the special teams end as well. So I think Alabama's going to be a complete team, and I think one way those backups can do it is by special teams. The importance of being on special teams. Listen, you can make it happen. You can earn you more. You get more feel of the game. I don't think it does just benefits your game on Saturdays. You get a better feel for the game. You're more in tune with the game. You have another area to affect the game and get on the field. So young players, get out there on special teams. So let's go to the student section. Oh, somebody says Jalen Hale. Jalen Hale's going to be a player this year. Come which way? Yeah. Talking about those young receivers, Jalen Hale, Hamilton, those guys are coming. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plans out. So listen, Bama Sanders says, listen, Jalen Hale is another. Getting a lot of Jalen Hale now. These young receivers are coming. So don't. I know I talked about the running backs and the offensive line and Caleb Downs and Jake Pope and all these guys, but listen, don't sleep on Jalen Hale and Hamilton. These young receivers, these guys are coming too. So RTR to the student section. Let's see. Justin Summers said, I believe we will rotate our entire defense. I hope we do. I hope we have so many multiple packages. I mean, it's so much talent. I think I saw a quote where they're saying Kevin Steele is basically just sitting back and letting the players run the defense. So that could be scary hours for the defense. You got a lot of leadership, Kool-Aid, Dallas Turner, Deontay Lawson, Justin Bogby up front. You got a lot of veteran leadership or just a lot of rah-rah guys to really get this defense going. And under the leadership of Kevin Steele, who knows the Bama standard, who's instilling the Bama standard and letting these guys, bringing a lot of juice, a lot of energy, a lot of physicality, hitting them in the mouth. I think that just bodes well for our defense. So, yes, great comment right there. Let's see. Carla Hidden says, I think Alabama can run the cheetah package again this year. Freshman Keon Keeley would cause havoc. The cheetah package was Pete Golden's defense, and most of the times he had the cheetah package dropping back in coverage. So he had Will Anderson dropping back on third down. So I hope we have something even more explosive than the cheetah package. I hope we have a lion package or whatever, a wolf, a hyena package, whatever, something different that sends Keon Keeley and Jans Pierre, all those quick edge rushes going to get the quarterback. And I think we'll have different packages. I don't know the names. I don't even know if we're gonna go animals. We might go Ferrari or Lamborghini package, because we got so many weapons out there. So a Chevy package or a Ford package, whatever you want to go, we'll have a different package led by Kevin Steele, Holzer, Freddie Roach, Balla, Coach Saban. That defense, they're gonna have those guys flying on all cylinders. Listen, great point right here. Don't sleep on Emmanuel Henderson, number 24. Yes, the talented running back. He played moving receiver last year. I think he's another kind of an X factor, kind of a Swiss Army knife we can have offensively. I think the ultimate Swiss Army knife offensively, receiver wise, is Kendrick Law. I believe Kendrick Law is, Debo Samuel 2.0, but you look at Emmanuel Henderson, he made a big play. He kind of reminds me of kind of a Kenyon Drake. He was a running back, but he had exceptional receiving skills. We could utilize him special teams. So do not sleep on Emmanuel Henderson. I think he can have a Kenyon Drake type of impact on the game, whether it's running back, receiver, mismatch against defenders. So great comment right there. So let's see. Let's stay. Let's go to my next comment. So I discussed the running backs. We discussed Alabama football schedule. I told you how I think Jake Pope is going to be my special teams player of the year. I think it's going to have like a Vinny Sincere type of impact. We talked about the big games. We talked about the QB race. I know this is different. So before I get to the NFL talk, I want to discuss just more college football news because we got a ton of NFL stuff. But I want to discuss how, Alabama will be playing in the on ABC, moving from CBS after this year. And so, when I think of ABC, I think of Alabama, I automatically think of the legendary Keith Jackson. Whoa, Nelly. I feel like Keith Jackson meant so much for the college football game. And when he passed, college football kind of didn't really have that voice. You have Herb Street, those type of guys. But, with all the technology that we have and artificial intelligence and AI, how cool will it be just to have Keith Jackson AI when the SEC goes to the ABC network? I think that would be pretty cool. Keith Jackson AI. So listen, all you ABC producers or Greg Sankey, listen to Football University. Do Keith Jackson AI. I think that would be pretty cool for games to listen to. So that would be pretty cool. So yeah, I just thought about that. And even when Saban, speaking of AI, even if Saban, becomes younger, or, he doesn't age, but I think we could have Saban AI. Somebody needs to be producing Saban artificial intelligence. That way we can continue winning these national championships. So I just wanted to say that. So let's go to the student section. Let's say Stephen Hicks says, I think he was talking about, the defensive ends and, not running the cheetah package, but attack, make QB lives miserable. I think we'll have like a Ferrari package or convertible package or a jet package where we, maybe we line up Jans and Pierre and Keeley and have Jeremiah Alexander. It could get scary hours with this defense with all this talent. I'm glad we just got a defensive coordinator who knows how to utilize as much talent that we have. So great comment right there. Inspired already. The best package Golden had was the one shipping his stuff out of town. Great comment right there by Red. Oh, this is what I love about the student section. Let's see. Yes, the jet sweep bag and hand it to Kendrick Law. You can hand it to Kendrick Law. You can play Kendrick Law at quarterback. He can play. He's like a Debo Samuel. So it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah, you can do so many weapons packages with all the talent that we have here in Tuscaloosa. And like I said, I think Coach Saban has got he's got the coordinators that he needs for to utilize all this talent in the leadership of Kevin Steele on the defensive end, as well as Tommy Reese on the offensive end. So yes. Let's see. So let's go to my. Oh, can y'all not see me? Hold on. Let's see. Can y'all see me now? I don't know. Hopefully, we're not having too many technical difficulties. Please let me know in the student section if y'all can see me. Justin Simon says, let me try something. Let's see. Let me see if I can do something. Let's try this. Can y'all see me now? Can y'all see me now? I don't know. I mean, I don't. Oh, y'all can see me. There we go. Good. Look at God. God working miracles. So, yeah, my internet, I had to go out on the roof and wrap some aluminum foil out there to my antenna. You know how it is. But yes, thank you to student section holding it down. You know, technology, it's working good, but when it's not working, it is very frustrating. So shouts out to the student section, still getting me right, making sure I have a right signal. So shouts out to the Bama Center. Matt, start using Cricket Wireless for your stream. Listen, Cricket Wireless, Leapfrog, all of them. I'm struggling right now. Oh man, y'all are funny. I love it. So I talked about AI. I don't know if y'all heard me talk about I don't know if y'all heard me talk about Keith Jackson when we get the ABC, SEC, but we need to use Keith Jackson AI and we need Saban AI. You know, somebody needs to be in the engineering department developing that. That way we will continue to win these national championships. Man, y'all are rolling. So listen, I discussed basically all about Alabama. But speaking of college football, and I kind of want to discuss this. We got the Dogs fans in the house. Dogs fans are already here. Shots fired. Everybody's talking about me fixing an aluminum foil on the antenna on my roof. But Dogs fans in the house. Like I said, when it comes to the Dogs, I need Georgia to win the East, and I just need Alabama to handle the West. That way we can meet up in Atlanta, and we don't have to discuss all this fight. We can finally get it on in Atlanta. So what better place than do it? So listen, Georgia Alabama fans always go at it. It is so funny. Please, man, listen, y'all know how to get it started. But I gotta give the Dogs fans credit. They come in here and they run their mouth because they can. They're 2-time national championship back to back. So speaking of college football, it was crazy football news. I don't know if did y'all hear about the news about Colorado going to the Big 12 and moving from the Pac-12? I mean, crazy times. I mean, there was a sneaky college football news. Caught me off guard. I was not expecting that. People are talking about the Big 12 now that they've lost Oklahoma and Texas. They acquired Colorado, I believe, Central Florida. I saw on the internet they don't call them the Big 12. They call them the Mid 12. I thought that was a funny take, so I had to bring that up. So college football news, a lot of the stuff shifting. Pac-12. I know Danny Lanning had some shots fired at Colorado today. So it's going to be interesting to see. So, speaking of college football, now I want to talk about the SEC, and I like to set this segment up. Is if I'm Greg Sankey, if I'm the SEC commissioner, And I'm looking at the college state. You got Colorado moving to the Big 12. You got the Pac-12. Don't know what they're doing for their TV deal. They got teams leaving. I believe Arizona may be leaving. And it got me thinking about the SEC commissioner. I know the SEC has Texas and Oklahoma. I think that's a big gig. But I do think we can reassess the SEC. I think you look at Missouri. I think maybe Missouri's kind of the weakest link. I want to get you all's thoughts in the student section. I kind of think Missouri's the weakest link. And if I'm the commissioner, maybe I move a Missouri and maybe go after an ACC school, maybe try to get a Florida State or a Clemson. I think you really have the ultimate SEC conference. Missouri is good. I know they're a good journalism school, but I think, you add a Florida State, that could be make the SEC, really now you got a Florida State, a Texas, and Oklahoma. The SEC is basically be even more dominant. So let me get thank you. Lord Caddell says Missouri is definitely weak. I feel like Missouri doesn't even offer anything. You look at a Vanderbilt, and we love Vanderbilt. People might talk about them football program wise, but academically, they keep our test scores high, and they bring it for baseball, so Vanderbilt has a lot of benefits, but Missouri, I'm like, outside of journalism, I know they know for journalism, but they really don't bring anything. Don't bring anything football wise, and don't bring anything baseball wise. Maybe they just don't bring a wow factor. I know we got Missouri because we want to expand in the Midwest, but with all the technology, streaming services, everybody's getting things streaming access on their phone. Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe give the boot to Missouri, maybe give them to the Big 12, and maybe we go get a Florida State. I think that would be a good look. Maybe a Clemson as well. So I know those two schools will be loving to get in the SEC. So that is my take right there. Let's go in the student section. I know that Dogs fan has brought out all the Bama fans so much. I know y'all are rolling. Justice Clemens said this is about some. So Mo Better, I guess he's a Marine. Shouts out to the Marines, Semper Fi. You listen. Shouts out to the Dogs fans who come in behind enemy lines and listen and running their mouth. That means we're getting closer to football season because that's what we do here at Football University. Listen, get the Georgia fans. If you bring more Georgia fans in here, I think it's great content. Because I just want Alabama and Georgia to meet each other in Atlanta for the SEC championship, and that's all I care about. I want David Pollock to be there. I want Stetson Bennett to be on the sideline. I want everybody from Georgia to be there in Atlanta, and hopefully Alabama comes out with a victory. So, yeah. Let's see. Oh, man, shots are fired. Let's see. A lot of talk. Let's see. Bama Standard says, get rid of Missouri at Kansas State if they want a Western presence. That could be something interesting. I still think, I think everybody can agree. Everybody thinks Missouri is the weakest link in the SEC. I just don't see the value that they offer for us. Kansas State would be interesting, but I still think we're the SEC. I'm not too concerned about the West and, expanding West. I'm more concerned about the SEC, the Southeastern Conference, the SEC states, Florida, Alabama, all those SEC states. That's why I say a Florida State, Tallahassee, that could be interesting. I would think that will up the value even more if we got rid of Missouri and brought in the Florida State, so that would be pretty cool. Or Clemson. So, y'all are still going at the Georgia fans. Listen, I want Georgia to cry like Tebow. Listen, that would be interesting. Listen, they say if it's a night game, Stetson Bennett can attend. He has to be at the back at the assistant living facility by 8. Shots fired. I love the student section. Y'all are the best. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, y'all are rolling. So let's see what else y'all are rolling. So let's get, since we're talking about Alabama and college football news. Let's, with the last 10 minutes, let's shift gears to the NFL and talk about why Alabama is so dominant. So the NFL, they dropped their NFL top 100 list, and I mentioned last week, Devontae Smith was 100, Marlon Humphrey 92, Tua was ranked number 82. But the big story last week, Trevon Diggs getting paid. I'm talking about paid. He got 97 million 5-year deals from the Dallas Cowboys. He made his headway 2 years ago where he had 12, 14, almost felt like he had like 20 interceptions or whatnot. So shouts out to Trevon Diggs, just showing you again why Alabama is the real DBU. Coach Saban is the best DB coach. I mean, you look at Pat Surtain, Trevon Diggs, who was a receiver coming out of the DMV area, the talented Diggs family. But he could have played receiver, but Coach Saban saw that he needed to switch to DB, and look, now he's one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL. And so when I mentioned Trevon Diggs, he's getting 97 million. Just imagine what Patrick Surtain is going to be, because I feel like Pat Surtain is the top DB corner in the NFL. So come to Alabama, you get paid, especially you get developed at the DB position. So I want to discuss that. And so, yeah, Trevon Diggs, not only did he get paid, but he came in at number 60 when it comes to the NFL top 100. So far, Alabama has 4. I predicted that Alabama will have at least 8 in the NFL top 100. Listen, Alabama's going to surpass that because they've already, Diggs is number 60, Jonathan Allen is 52, Pat Surtain, who I just mentioned for the talented DB at Denver Broncos, is number 49. CJ Mosley is at 46, and Jalen Waddle is at 44. So you can only imagine where Minka Fitzpatrick is going to be ranked and where Jalen Hurts is going to be ranked. So I think that puts Alabama at 10. They will probably have the most players in the NFL top 100 from one institution. So speaking of the NFL, I talked about the Diggs contract. Bryce Young, let's go up to Charlotte. Bryce Young, Frank Wright made it official by saying Bryce Young, he is QB1. And I know we got a lot of Falcons fans on here, rise up. But listen, I'm rolling with Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers to win the NFC South division, because when I look at the Falcons, they got Desmond Ridder. I look at the Saints, they got Derek Carr. I don't know if Alvin Kamara is going to be that guy. And I look at Tampa Bay, they don't have Tom Brady. So listen, I am rolling with I'm rolling with the Carolina Panthers. So keep pounding Bryce Young. He is now QB1. I think with Thielen, Shark, Frank Wright, Jim Caldwell, they have a lot of offensive-minded guys. And I just think they have a lot of talent to win that division. So Bryce Young being named QB1. What else? Big NFL news. So big NFL news. Jalen Hurts. Tua talking about this is a quarterback Netflix series. A lot of the Bama guys turned down the quarterback Netflix series. I know Jalen Hurts, Tua said they want to focus on the family. But listen, Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles dropped their throwback uniforms, and they're using the Kelly green. It went viral. I mean, Fly Eagles fly to all the Philadelphia Eagles fans out there. But Jalen Hurts, they did a photo shoot with him sitting in the locker room, and they paid homage to Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, all Philly. But Jalen Hurts was in the Kelly green. We haven't seen these uniforms till, back in the day when Randall Cunningham was rocking them, Reggie White, the list goes on and on with the Kelly green and the silver eagle. But he was in the locker room reading Randall Cunningham Sports Illustrated magazine, basically paying homage to Randall Cunningham. And it got me thinking, who's the better quarterback? Is it Randall Cunningham or is it Jalen Hurts? And I say can't just say all Jalen Hurts, because if you put Randall Cunningham in this type of offense, this offensive led offense where it's all about passing and getting receivers, the offensive scheme, Randall Cunningham could do a lot of damage. So listen, I think those are the top two Philadelphia Eagle quarterbacks, but Jalen Hurts, man, he might get my vote, but it's going to be interesting to see the Eagles in that Kelly Green. And I still think my Super Bowl pick, while I'm talking about Jalen Hurts, you got to talk about Jalen Hurts. You can't talk about Jalen Hurts without talking about Tua Tagovailoa down there in Miami on South Beach. I got Tua. They're starting training camp. He disclosed his new ink from his Samoan culture. He talked about how he had his first son and all that means for his culture. So he's got the ink on his arm. Tua seems a little bit bigger. He's taking jiu-jitsu. He's got Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. He's coming back. They say he's taking ownership. Mike McDaniel is raving about Tua. So listen, I'm rolling. I think my Super Bowl pick, I think it's going to be an Alabama-themed Super Bowl. I think it's going to be the Dolphins versus the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I'm going with Tua versus Jalen in the Super Bowl. So, yeah, we talked about Jalen. We talked about Tua. Jalen versus, Tua in the Super Bowl. Jalen versus Randall Cunningham. Oh, I want to talk about this. Since I'm talking about the Miami Dolphins, if I'm the Miami Dolphins, if I'm Chris Greer and Josh Jacobs is not on the team, I am going to pay Josh Jacobs everything he needs in a one-year deal to make the Super Bowl run. Could you imagine Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, Josh Jacobs in the backfield? That is scary hours. That could literally be that could be scary. So if I'm the Miami Dolphins, pay these running backs, pay Josh Jacobs. Like, that could really take your team to the Super Bowl. So NFL, these camps are rolling around starting this week. And, with NFL, I want to talk about this, how valuable Brian Branch is. I feel like, I know he went second round, but I've always thought Brian Branch could have went higher because of the value that he does for a defensive secondary. And I say this because rumors that had it, news that broke that C.J. Gardner-Johnson, one of the top DBs in the NFL who signed with the Detroit Lions, got injured. And I thought, listen, they will not miss a beat because they have Mr. Swiss Army knife himself in Brian Branch at the DB position. He can play safety. He can play star. He can play corner. He can play money. He can do it free safety. He can play strong safety. He can do it all. So that's why I say the importance of Brian Branch. The Detroit Lions, I didn't think Brian Branch was a second-round value. So I think teams, listen, to me, he was one of the better picks. And I think teams are going to regret passing on a Brian Branch. You look at the Miami Dolphins, who I talked about. They lost Jalen Ramsey, but you think they will probably feel a little bit better about themselves if they had a Swiss Army knife in Brian Branch that could fill that void for Jalen Ramsey. So let's go to the student session. Let's take a pause from the NFL talk. Mo Better going crazy for about them dogs. How about them dogs in the house? Shouts out to the CTS Sports Room. Yes, everybody, Twitter, Facebook Live all week. Stay on the CTS. Listen, Bryce Young has put on some weight. Listen, Bryce Young is QB1. I know I love the Falcons fans. My wife's a big Falcons fan, but I'm rolling with Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers to win the division this year. And so, speaking of the NFL, I got to talk about Will Anderson. I got to shout out to D'Amico Ryans. D'Amico Ryans, they did a mic'd up with him, and they asked him, how do you feel about having Will Anderson? And he says, basically, I've drafted myself. He's better than me. And he talks about the work ethic that Will Anderson, guys who are making waves in camp. I call it camp waves, but Will Anderson's making noise. And shouts out to John Mechie. John Mechie came back from the battle with leukemia, and he looked like he has not lost a beat for the Houston Texans. I mean, he had a viral clip running a double move route on a DB. He's just still a route technician, so don't sleep on John Mechie. Kudos to John Mechie, enduring and persevering and coming back, but he's making noise in camp. Will Anderson's making noise in camp. I mentioned Jahmyr Gibbs. Listen, Brian Branch is making a lot of noise in the Detroit Lions camp as well, so it's going to be interesting to see. So those are kind of what I wanted to talk about in my NFL notes. And listen, we're going to end it right there because this is what we do at Football University. Please apologize for the technical difficulties. I had to get my Reynolds wrap it around the antenna, but we got it working now. So shouts out to the center section. Y'all are rolling. Cindy Reed, the Bama Standard, William Bryant, Mo Better, the Dogs fan, Carla Hinton, Jeff Saban, Laura Caddell, happy birthday. Cindy Reed, William Bryant, Red, Justin. Listen, tune in next week for another edition of Football University. And listen, camp is starting on Wednesday. Let's be excited to discuss what's going on in T-Town for camp. So I'm excited to see y'all next week, same time, same channel here at Football University with me, Matt Caddell.